Touchdown, Chargers!
What's up, guys? Welcome into a schedule release edition of Chargers Weekly. As always, joined by the voice of the Chargers, Matt Money Smith. And, buddy, we're going to break down this schedule. We just got it. But we should also mention that we had a great interview with Joe Hortiz that we're going to air after we break this thing down. Joe was awesome.
Yeah, exactly. So stick around, kind of go through the schedule. I know that's what everybody's doing right now. We had a chance to catch up with the general manager of the Chargers a little bit before the schedule release is obviously, not that it's an all hands on deck for the personnel department, but it's a pretty big deal when they launch and, you know, the Chargers do what they do and make their magic. So excited to be part of it. It's ridiculous that this is like a national sporting holiday, but here we are on Wednesday, May 14th, and the schedule releases and everybody freaks out.
Yeah. Hey, the anticipation is real because we now know how it all lines up. And let's just start week one. We've known this for a long time that the Chargers are playing in Brazil. They're going to be playing the Kansas City Chiefs Friday night on YouTube. This is probably going to set big numbers, Money.
Yeah, a free stream. So it's not YouTube TV. It will be obviously available on YouTube TV, but this is just straight YouTube. You log on, you watch. And like you said, because of that, because it's not a premium service, it's not Prime, it's not Peacock or Paramount or any of that, it's going to do huge numbers. I mean, as a standalone game, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Andy Reid, Jim Harbaugh, you know, I think for all the people, and I get it. I totally get the whole Charger fan, season ticket holder. Dude, we want to have the Patrick Mahomes game here and stuff. And I think there's, you know, credible, you know, I think it's credible to be upset about that for sure. At the same time, I think for the Chargers to be on a standalone, to have this heavyweight bout is great for the team. It's especially if they can finally slay that dragon. We know how close it's been in all these contests, but to do it in week one, to do it in Brazil, to do it against Mahomes, like I actually like the idea of it. I'm all right with it.
You know, we've seen the last several years where they've come so close, and last year was no different. So the opportunity to see this team right at the beginning of the year and kind of set the tone for the division, because we go straight from Kansas City to, I guess, a little bit of a bye, actually a good amount of a bye. You get 3 or 4 extra
10 days.
Week 2 at Las Vegas. So not a long trip, quick trip to Vegas. See Pete Carroll in the What's Your Deal Bowl, week 2 on a national stage again.
Yeah, I kind of, as I dug through the schedule, I didn't have a chance to go through everybody's bye, but right now, just with the Chargers, you know, in terms of where their schedule are, they have 1, 2, 3, 4 extra rest games as it stands right now until I can dig into the buys. We just wanted to get this thing out there. So both games against the Raiders. Raiders, week 13. They're coming off of their bye. And then this one, again, week 2 is coming off Brazil. So it's 10-day rest. So both division games, I'm sure the Raiders aren't happy about that. The Chargers, as it stands right now, are going to have extra rest going into those. And then they'll also have extra rest coming off the bye against coming up Thursday Night Football against the Titans. And then Denver, it looks like it's that Saturday game. So that's not bad as it stands right now. You got 4 extra rest games, but you mentioned the Raiders there, and it's pretty wild start to the season, man. Chiefs, Raiders, Broncos, bing, bang, boom. AFC West, 1, 2, 3.
That was the number one thing that stood out to me from this schedule, because, you know, we always hear about you're not really yourself, you're not really a team until mid-October. You're trying to get the cobwebs out. So this could go either way for the Chargers. On one hand, it's an opportunity to maybe get 3 division wins right at the beginning of the year. It shows the importance, the added importance of the regular season for the Chargers this year. I don't know if I like it. And I'd be interested to know what fans think about playing 3 divisional opponents in the first 3 weeks of the season without really having an opportunity to kind of get the cobwebs off. And you know, I know that there's going to be an early start to the year, mid-July training camp. You have the Hall of Fame game. So there's going to be a long lead up to the regular season for the Chargers. I just don't know if I've seen this where you have 3 division games first 3 weeks of the season, man.
I personally like it.
You
I
like it?
feel like, yeah, just number one, you've got a new quarterback, new coach in Vegas, right? So I think that benefits the Chargers, continuity versus change. Um, I'd rather play the Chiefs knowing that we got our best. That it's not, man, if only we had Derwin for this game. Oh, you know what I mean? Always felt like there was something like that hanging over this team. So the fact that it's week one, coming out, knock on wood that nobody gets hurt in training camp, but it's everybody's healthy. Both sides have continuity. I like it. I do. I like the idea that because the Chargers know who they are. Yeah, they lost, they certainly lost some big pieces, and obviously Joey Bosa, but for the most part, that secondary's back. Your linebackers are there. You still got Khalil Mack and Thule and Bud Dupree, and you still have that offensive line, which is probably going to be the same five guys, save Mekhi Becton, which is an upgrade. And, you got this running game, man. You got this. It's, to me, with the way the Chargers are going to play, it's like, hey, man, welcome back to football. Here we are, Omarion Hampton, Najee Harris, Mekhi Becton, Joe Alt. We're going to beat the absolute crap out of you. And I kind of like it in the early part of the season to sort of, I don't know. I get what you're saying, but at the same time, I feel like that's good for this team. I feel like it's good for the way this team plays, who's coming back, all of their coaches, both of their coordinators. I think that's a good deal for them.
Listen, it's good if they can win. If they can go 2-1 or 3-0 the first 3 weeks, then it's great. It's early adversity. It really is, because you have to start training camp early. You have that extra preseason game, and I know not everybody's going to play in that game, but it's an added thing to the preseason. You have to go to Brazil. You have to go 12 hours there, 14 hours back, whatever it is, and all within that you have 3 division games. So I agree that there's a heightened sense of urgency at the beginning of the year. There always is, but when you have games that we always talk about, they count as 2. So
Yeah.
weeks 1, 2, and 3. I mean, you talk about added importance right off the rip, and then week 4. Like
I'll say real quick, Chris, just real quick on the Brazil thing. Look, I travel a lot. You travel a lot, but to me, all flights are kind of the same. It's like once you're up in the air and the Brazil one's it's a good one, right? It's only a 4-hour time change. I know it's a long flight, but it's not like we're losing a day or losing a day and a half and going to Australia. And it's like, yes, 14 hours back is not pleasant, especially when you're a large human being and you're trying to cramp into a plane seat. That part I get, but at the same time, of all the international games, the time change for Spain, Ireland, London, Germany, like this is best case scenario because you're still, for the most part, on your clock. It's no different than us going to the East Coast for a couple days, and I think because of that time change, you don't have to go 4 or 5 days ahead of time, and you don't really have to worry about your clock getting reset. It's not really all that different than us going to New York or going to Miami.
Plus the bye week helps coming out of that, and
you get the extra rest.
The Raiders on Monday night. So week 4, though, you go back to the East Coast. You play the New York Giants, a team I think they think they're up and coming. I think that they're still the 4th place team in the NFC East, but nonetheless, an early kickoff week 4 in New York. Then you come home for week 5, a homecoming for Jaden Daniels, Washington Commanders. I believe that's October 5th, a late window game on Fox, which will probably be a Brady Burkhardt game.
Yeah, you would guess so. Jaden Daniels, Justin Herbert, it's all about quarterbacks. It's a team that made the conference championship last year. It's a Charger team that won 11 games. You've got, like you said, Jaden, who's a local guy. And it's 125. You said it. That may be one of the games they protected, because it's obviously a huge fan base. It's that late window where it's probably the standalone game on Fox. And, whatever they call it, football.
America's game of the week.
America's game of the week. And, that's, again, good for the Chargers. That's good for the Chargers. So the trip to New York, it's early. It's September. It's beautiful that time of year. It's not too humid. So that's cool. You miss it there instead of going to New York in December or something. And then you come back and, look, the Giants are still trying to figure it out. It's one of the new QBs. It's going to likely be Jackson Dart out there as your starter. And so you get him early, trying to figure it out here in the NFL. So that's probably a little bonus too.
Week 6, back to the East Coast at Miami in October. If it was September, it'd be a lot more humid. Maybe
Yeah.
you catch a little bit of a break in October. Then you come back Week 7 versus Indianapolis, and we don't know if that's going to be Daniel Jones or Anthony Richardson. And then Week 8, Thursday Night Football. We're looking at J.J. McCarthy and Jim Harbaugh sharing the field again. So just the last three I mentioned, at Miami versus Indy, and then yet another primetime game money. I think it's 3 of 5 versus the Vikings at SoFi.
Yeah, I think, it's kind of fun to go through it week by week, but just kind of to pick up on what you're laying down. I think sort of the theme's also good to sort of, as I'm looking at it, give the people the overview. You said it, 5 primetime games, right? The Vikings on the short week, Thursday Night Football, it's home. Huge benefit. The Thursday Night Football games on the road are a real kick in the pants. Just because A, it's a short week, and B, you've got to travel, so you lose essentially your entire practice week. So you've got not only a home game on Thursday Night Football, but back-to-back home games. So Colts at home, then Thursday Night Football. So it's not only you're the home team, but you're also home the prior week, so you're not flying in late, Sunday night, dragging ass Monday morning when you got to get right back to it because you don't get that Monday off. So now it's no big deal. It's like, yeah, guys, you wrap it up at 1 o'clock, with the Colts on Sunday, and you're fine, kind of getting that practice day in on Monday. So that's a big benefit there. You mentioned the 5 prime times, Chris. Might as well just run through them right now. We already talked about the Raiders in week 2 and KC week 1, obviously on YouTube, and now Vikings on Prime on Thursday Night Football week 8. We got 2 other ones in there.
Yeah, week 10 versus Pittsburgh, Sunday Night Football. We saw that movie a few years ago where the Steelers were on Sunday Night Football. It was a great one. It was a great one. And then we get the Philadelphia Eagles. The Philadelphia Eagles were at SoFi last year against the Rams on Sunday night. They're going to be here Monday night, week 14. So the defending Super Bowl champions. That's a big game because that comes after the bye. You have the bye, then the Raiders, which you mentioned. You get a little extra time to prepare for them. And then an extra day for the Philadelphia Eagles, man. So
yeah.
the schedule gods think that the Chargers on primetime is a good thing.
It always is. There's stars. You got a star head coach and you got a star quarterback, and they typically do not get blown out in games. So they regularly play pretty close games. My big takeaway on the prime times, we know we've done it. We're on the West Coast. You got a Monday Night Football game on the East Coast. It sucks, man. It's brutal. You're not getting home until 2, 3, 4 in the morning. Your schedule's just kind of off for the next couple days because you can't really sleep on the plane. It's never more than a 4-hour, maybe if it's really long, a 5-hour flight. So you're not getting a good night's sleep there, and it's too early to fall asleep. So it really just screws with you. But look at that, man. Obviously, Brazil is whatever. It's a Friday. You're going to get 10 days into your next game. But Raiders, Monday Night Football, that's a 30-minute flight. No big deal, man. That's your one road game. Otherwise, Thursday night home, Sunday Night Football home, Monday Night Football home. And even if it's a prime time on Saturday, as it's a TBD against Houston on December 28th, is kind of what they have that slotted in right now. That's a home game. So that could be your Saturday nighter, and you're still at home. Like it really works out well for being in the Western time, for being in the Pacific time zone and not having to deal with those cross-country flights for Monday or Sunday Night Football that can really knock you off kilter for a week.
So, Muddy, let's go back to the first 8 games. We talked about it. 3 division games to start the season. East Coast trip to New York. You come back for the Commanders. Another East Coast trip to Miami. Then you come home for Indy. And then Minnesota on Thursday night. That's kind of the halfway point of the schedule. Anything else stand out to you the first 8 weeks other than 3 straight division games?
Let's see. What do I have? I got the short week games, which figures. I got the extra rest games. Only 1 back-to-back roadie there late in this. I'm just looking first. So new quarterbacks. You mentioned the first. Let's just go first 9 weeks, right? Yeah. Because you've got basically 3 rookies in the first 9 weeks: Cam Ward, J.J. McCarthy, and Jackson Dart. So 3 of your first 9 games are going to be against quarterbacks that are trying to figure it out.
Unless it's Tommy DeVito week 4, buddy.
Exactly.
You never know.
Tommy Cutlets.
Forget Russ and Jameis.
Yeah, so that's a good one. I think that's good for them, is kind of get to those guys early. Now, Jaden Daniels, of course, rewrote the script last year. Bo Nix was solid, and those guys may be the same. But at the same time, I think that's good. Get them earlier than later, as they're still trying to figure this league out. So that's kind of what I guess if you're just looking at those first 8 weeks, sure. Go ahead and rip through the rest of it, just kind of, and then we can kind of dig in instead of going game by game.
All right, let's do it. All right, so second half of the season, we're going to Nashville. You mentioned a Cam Ward. Week 10, you come back home, Pittsburgh, Sunday Night Football, a little revenge game for Najee Harris. Is it going to be Will Howard or Aaron Rodgers or Mason Rudolph? We have no idea at this point. Week 11, Duval at Jacksonville. See Travis Hunter. A Week 12 bye, which we were hoping for a late bye. As opposed to that Week 5 early in the year, dude, that's huge. Any thoughts on the bye? Happy, right?
Huge compared to last year. Week 4, was it? Week 5, whatever it was.
Week 5.
The first week. Yeah, disaster. Just way too early. That's great. You would rather it be later than, look, you'd love it to be Week 10, Week 9, right there in the middle, but we'll take 12, especially considering what we're looking at after the bye, man, because you want to talk about the gauntlet. Here it comes.
It's brutal. It really is brutal. So you get that extra week to prepare for the Raiders. Then we mentioned Philly, Monday Night Football at home. This never fails. You and I talked to it right before the pod. Short week going to Kansas City, right?
Every time. Every time. Every time. Short week, Kansas City. And, hey, the good news is because you got Philly on Monday night, they can't flex you to Thursday night. So there's that, at least because that's something that certainly could have been in play, as the Chargers were the first ever Thursday night football flex last year with the Broncos. And how did that game turn out? My God, it was incredible. So, that was something you fear. I guess that's the one good news. But, yeah, it never fails. If you were to go through the Chargers schedule the last 7 years, you will see guaranteed at least one of the 2 games against the Chiefs is on a short week.
So the 2 games that stood out to me, I know they're 10 a.m. right now, Week 15 at KC, Week 16 at Dallas. If Dallas is good this year, you better believe that they'll flex them to Saturday night or Monday Night Football.
Oh, yeah, that's a good call.
At Kansas City, 10 a.m., if that game is for the division or is a game within the division, very high probability that gets flexed to Sunday night or Monday night. We saw the Chargers get flexed last year. So I look at those 2 teams. And then Week 17, that looks to be a Saturday game, similar to what they did with New England last year.
Now.
And then Week 18 at Denver. Who knows? If Denver is in contention for a playoff spot and the Chargers are as well, that could be for something, or it could be meaningless. We don't know.
Yeah, and that's why those 2 are TBD, because obviously, but you look at those 2 teams, and I think if you were to at least lean one way versus the other, you're leaning. Yeah, those are going to possibly be primetime games. That looks like a potential. As good as the Broncos were last year, I think they're going to be better this year. As good as the Chargers were last year, I think they're going to be better this year. As good as the Texans were last year, we'll see. I think. I'm not so sure about that offensive line, but the defense is incredible. So I think they're still the class of the AFC South. So yes, you've got 4 games in a row. You can't flex them all. What's the max? 7, I think you can have, or is it 6? Prime times. I can't remember what the cap is, but you're not going to get all 4 of them flex. But I think it's prudent to say, yeah, one of those is going to be moving into a prime time slot, and you close the season on the road 3 or 4 weeks, likely against 3 really good teams.
Yeah. What about weather here? Week 18, Denver. That's a wild card. At Kansas City
and Denver.
That's going to be tough. Okay, so 3 division games at the beginning of the season, right? 1, 2, and 3. You have 2 of the last 4 in the division on the road in cold conditions, and then you have that controlled climate coming off the bye against Vegas. So it's very unique how the division opponents are stacked. You have the first 3 weeks, and then the last 2 of the last 4. So you don't really see your division opponents in the middle.
Week 18 has always been a division opponent. They've done that now the last about half decade or so. So that's we knew that was going to be locked. Last year it was Raiders. This year it's Denver. Next year it'll probably be the Chiefs. Is kind of how it feels like they rotate those, because we had the Chiefs 2 years ago, Raiders last year, and now Denver this year. Look, it's not ideal to be playing Kansas City and Denver in what are likely going to be incredibly cold climates, or at least snowy climates. 14th of December against Kansas City, 4th of January against Denver, especially if that's a night game. Imagine if you're in Denver and that's like the primetime game and you're outside and it's cold.
Yeah.
But again, the Chargers play in Los Angeles, but it's less about it's certainly about where you play, but it's also about how you play. And if this brand of football that they say they want to play, in fact, is able to be executed, then that works for us, works for the Chargers, to be a physical, run-heavy team with big bruising backs that every time you try to tackle them, that you feel it, that you're tackling a 220-pound back, and you're out there on the field in Kansas City on December 14th or January 4th against Denver, and you like that. Like that's something you'd be into. So overall, I think it lays out. Look, it's a tough schedule. Last year, we knew looking at it, it's like they can make some hay here with these opponents. This looks pretty friendly, coming off a 4th place finish in the division. With the matchups, the cross matches that you got this year, not as easy. You're cross matched with a Vikings team that won 13 games last year. I think Kevin O'Connell's a hell of a coach. And you're cross-matched with who's the other? What is it? It's the Vikings and the Colts, because we play the AFC South. And
is it the Dolphins?
What was our other cross-match? Help me out here, because we play
Dolphins.
Huh? Dolphins. There you go.
Yeah.
Dolphins. A Dolphins team that's okay. That's all right. I'm comfortable with that.
Plus, the NFC East is tough. I mean,
yeah,
three of those 4 teams especially are going to be tough. And just going back to the beginning of the schedule, if this was year 1 of Jim Harbaugh, I think I'd be maybe a little bit more concerned with the division games. The fact that it's year 2 and a culture's been established, they know how they want to play. They've seen these teams twice last year. I look at it, and I'm sure Jim will spin it this way. This is an opportunity, man. Like this is an opportunity to jump on this division, take hold of it from the beginning, and don't let go of it.
Yeah. I mean, imagine, and look, I fully believe they can win that week 1 game. So imagine you win that week 1 game. Now you got 10 days off, and you're going up against a Raiders team that, again, new system offensively, new coach, new quarterback. Obviously, they're experienced guys. It's a little bit less of a deal than, a coordinator that's been promoted to head coach and a rookie quarterback and things like that. But I like it. There's only 1 back-to-back roadie. It's late in the year. The bye comes late. It does not feel like you have too many. You do have that sort of window where you feel like, okay, Miami, Indy, Vikings with J.J. McCarthy at your place on Thursday night, Titans, Pitt, Jacksonville. Like that's a nice little, to use the golf term, moving day for the Chargers. You have a solid start to the season. You take advantage of those division games, like you said, get the sweep or win 2 or 3. Go to New York against a hell of a defense, man. That defense is going to be a nightmare to deal with, but an offense that's maybe searching a little bit, and, you could feel pretty good by the time you hit your bye through 11 games. If you're projecting, which ones we think the Chargers would be favored in. Let's see. I would say they'll be favored 1, 2, 3, maybe not there, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think probably 8 of those games they'll be favored of the 11. So if you're getting into the bye at 8-3, feeling really good.
Yeah. The one thing I kind of noticed throughout the course of the schedule too is, we talked about the miles in Brazil, but you got to go to New York, then you come back home, then you got to go to Miami, then you come back home for a couple, then you got to go to Tennessee, which is almost an East Coast trip. Then you got Pittsburgh, then you got to go to Jacksonville. So it's like it's almost alternating these long East Coast trips. And I'm with you. I agree that flying in 2025 a little bit different. These guys are used to it, and it's not as strenuous as maybe you would think on the outside. But a lot of trips, a lot of miles.
Yeah, and that's probably why they didn't do the back-to-backs. Now, would it have been better if we had done, if Miami was week 4 and the Giants were week 5? That would have been interesting. Would have been
Yeah.
kind of what do we got going here now? Huh?
Maybe for us. Maybe for us.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Maybe that could have worked out all right, as a matter of fact. But it lays out all right. And not saying this because they're our partners, but our charter people are awesome. Flight attendants awesome. Pilots awesome. You think about commercial flights and what it takes you when you fly from New York back to LA when you're walking into JFK, LaGuardia, or Newark compared to what we get. You're like 5.5. No, about 440. Really? Well, all right then. Let's get a couple thousand feet higher than everybody else and go about 70, 80 miles an hour faster than everybody else and get home that extra hour early. So yeah, it works out okay. I think it's better that way to just alternate home road. Well, I guess technically we have 2 back-to-back home road games, but think about that. It's the Raiders. It's the 25-minute flight. So that it worked from week 1 from Brazil. It works out pretty well, man. I think overall, I'm just trying to see if. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I just said if I told the everyday human being that you had a trip to Brazil, New York, and Miami all in the span of 4 and 5 weeks, you wouldn't think adversity, right? You would not. You'd be like, okay, I get to go to Brazil, New York, and Miami. Pretty good.
And Vegas. And Vegas.
Mix in a Vegas. I forgot.
Sao Paulo, Vegas, the big town, and South Beach. Yes, that's. Hey, man, keep your blinders on, people. Just be careful.
And you live in LA, and you live in Los Angeles.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to see if I have any other notes. Talked about the short week, Minnesota, Denver week 3, coming off of Monday Night Football, Jacksonville week 11, coming off Sunday Night Football, not really a short week, and then of course Kansas City we already talked about. Only one back-to-back roadie, closed with 3 of 4 on the road, got into that. The last 4 of 5 are all playoff teams, including the 2 conference champions, Philadelphia, KC, and your Super Bowl champ. I mentioned the new QBs, and then here you go. Last one I put a note on, Chris. Big-name rookies offensively. Week 2, Ashton Genty. Week 4, both Abdul Carter, who, we think is going to be pretty special, and Jackson Dart at quarterback. Week 7, how about Tyler Warren with our friend Shane Steichen in the Colts? Week 9, we talked about Cam Ward. Week 11, we get to see Travis Hunter.
That'll be fun.
And week 17, you get to see those pair of Iowa State receivers and Jaden and Jalen, Higgins and Noel, out there at SoFi against Houston. So what game? So here we go. Let's wrap with this maybe, Chris, so we can get to Joe Hortiz. Road game you would say the Charger fans should go to, and home game that the Charger fans should go to?
Ooh, okay. I say the excitement of September, get to Vegas in week 2. Right off the rip, this team needs to win division games. You get to see Pete Carroll versus Jim Harbaugh. You get to see Amari and Hampton versus Ashton Genty, and we know the feeling towards the Raiders. Get to Vegas week 2.
Yep.
So I know that's on the schedule every year. If I had to pick another team, I would listen. Nashville is one of my favorite road cities. If you want to just enjoy a Charger game on the road, I would say Nashville. The home game, I would just pick a team that we have not seen come to SoFi in a long time, and I think week 5 Commanders, Jaden Daniels being an LA guy and San Bernardino guy. They're an exciting team to watch, and just seeing Daniels versus Justin Herbert reminds me of Jaden Daniels, I think, true freshman year, that duel that they had, Oregon versus Arizona State, where Ayuk was in the mix. And so that it kind of have shades of that. So I would say early in the year, week 2 and week 5.
Yeah, I'll go no budget, Brazil, obviously. When else are you ever going to go to Brazil? There's a seed that's planted. There's a carrot out there for you if you're a diehard Charger fan to check that box and head down to South America. I think it'll be incredible, beautiful country, awesome people, and football, and a Chargers-Chiefs game, So that would be number 1, no budget. If you're on a budget, I love New York City. I just do. I think it's special whenever we play there. I don't care how good the teams are. I know MetLife isn't the greatest stadium, and it's kind of out in the sticks, and it's kind of a pain in the ass to get to. But there's just something cool about walking around that city. We go out a day early and walking around the city on Saturday. is just so much fun when there's college football and you're in one of these packed bars watching college football games and walking through the city and hitting up Central Park and all that. It's just a special trip. So I always appreciate when we get a chance to go to New York City. And then
September too, right? September, it's
going to be beautiful. It'll be great. I'm very excited about that one. And then I think home game. Yeah, I love I think you got the number one pick in the Commanders. That's going to be really cool. So I'll take the other obvious one. Well, you know what? No, let's go week 17. Chargers are pushing for the division. They got a rematch, revenge game. That game should have been in LA if the league had its head out of its tuchus and would slot the playoffs by record instead of by division winners. And let's show them what it looks like if you had home field and you didn't have to travel to Houston, even though you had a better record. So that's the one I would pick. Let's go late in the season. A lot on the line for playoff seeding, maybe the division as well, maybe the number one seed, all that stuff. Let's think positive. So let's go Houston week 17 and get that place loud, playoff atmosphere, and set the tone of what it should have been last year. One of these days, I'm going to get Goodell drunk. I'm going to really lay into him. What are we doing?
I don't know if that would go well. We don't want to lay into the commish.
We got the Dartmouth connection, so that's a good place for us. I always start with that with him.
With that.
It tends to be a good icebreaker, and then I can come with the come on, man. What are we doing? Why are we seeding by these division winners? The AFC South sucks every year, and they host the first game of the playoffs every single year on Saturday at freaking noon because you don't want to watch them anyway. So let's just change things up, man, and slot it by record. You get into the playoffs for winning your division, you don't get a home game. That's all there is to it. And it was proposed this year by the Lions, God bless them, because the Chargers did it 2 years ago and everybody thought it was sour grapes because of the Jacksonville thing. And it's like, no, it's common sense. But anyway,
what was the vote? What was the vote that? How did it hash out this year when the Lions
tabled it?
Okay,
they tabled it. Yeah, they tabled it.
Because
they were trying to add in the stupid, like, well, unless the division winner has a winning record, let's only do. No, not if the division winner has a winning record. You slot by how many games you win. This game is hard enough. This league is hard enough. There is no reason to give anybody an advantage for not winning more games than their opponent by giving them home field in the playoffs. It just doesn't make any sense. Sorry. Never has.
But you know what I'll say? We just gave the fans like a home and a road game that we're looking forward to. There's so many that we've left off the table. Like, this is a fun fan schedule.
It's a great schedule.
You can go to Miami, right? You could go to Dallas later in the year. You can go to Nashville.
Dallas is special. I'm glad you mentioned that because I know we went preseason last year and you forget what an incredible venue that is. It's still the best stadium in the league. It is so cool to go there. And I always tell people, like, it's the whole, everything's bigger in Texas. Just the concourses are wider. The bathrooms are bigger. The suites are bigger. The press room is bigger. The patio, the outdoor cocktail party vibe above one of the end zones is incredible. It is such an awesome place to see a game. That's a good call, Chris.
Secondarily too, and we were talking to Joe about just the college games that are in these opposing markets as well. So that's another thing you can do is like, hey, if you're gonna go to Nashville for the weekend, I think I already checked this. I don't think Vanderbilt's in town, but like look at the SEC schools that are close by or the Big Ten schools that are close by and see what college games are going on a Saturday and make a football weekend out of it.
You know what? Before we go, because we talked to Joe a little bit earlier, so we know what he's going to say. So let's just kind of get in here real quick and see if, in fact, what his recommendation, which is Florida, and it's all TBD.
Yeah,
that's right. They haven't released their schedule yet, so until they do, I forgot about that. So we'll figure at least. Oh, that's just times that are TBD. So here we go. We are in Miami on the 12th, and they are gone.
Check
Son
that
of
one.
A gun.
They're on a bye, I think.
They're at Texas A&M.
Oh, are they?
Yeah, they're at Texas A&M. So let's see what else. Might as well just go through these real quick. Let's see if we are going to
Jacksonville.
That's the one I checked.
Oh, that's when you checked?
Yeah, that's what he had
so
mentioned.
The
He's
Hurricanes,
go to Gainesville.
The Hurricanes are on a bye, obviously, because they play in the same stadium when we're in Miami.
I'm
With
not
New
going
York
to a
being,
Rutgers game. I'm walking the
yeah,
city.
yeah, exactly.
Not
We'll deal with
interested
the
in going to,
Rutgers.
well, and it's Monday Night Football for Vegas. Nashville, you said you checked Vandy already. That's a
Yeah,
fun
Vandy.
place
I
to
think
go, by the
Vandy's
way.
is at Texas that week, I think.
Bummer. Yeah, we're
So
shut out, man. I guess that's it. Oh, well.
Dallas, maybe there's a
Little bowl game, little
little bowl
Texas
game
Bowl or
action.
something
Yeah,
on
something.
Texas Bowl on the 20th. That's our only hope.
I'm excited, dude. It's so
Yeah,
funny
good
how
stuff.
this day has become such a big deal, but it obviously allows fans to start planning and get
Yeah,
rolling, find out your road trips, find out the games you want to go to at SoFi, and we're gonna blanket. It'll be here.
exactly right. Now I got to check the concert calendar, see who's playing where. Maybe there's a show I can get to.
All right, hey, we teased this at the top. A great conversation with General Manager Joe Hortiz. Here it is. All right, Money, as promised, General Manager Joe Hortiz joins us on Chargers Weekly. And, Joe, so much going on in the month of May. Let's just rewind to rookie minicamp. Obviously, it's one thing to evaluate these guys and draft them. Now that they're in the building and kind of integrating into the culture, how do you think it went?
Oh, I thought it went great. We set it up. Coach had a great idea about really giving obviously the rookies, the draft picks coming in, getting them acclimated, but then giving the tryout players a chance to compete and show what they're capable of doing. So great energy out there all weekend, a lot of movement. We were out there on the grass for a good bit of time, and guys were able to acclimate themselves here to the Chargers and get a chance to see them, unwrap the gifts a little bit, see our new toys, So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's an interesting idea and concept. Totally makes sense. But as someone who's got to evaluate and you're trying to figure out, which of these guys can help you out, how did it work for you? Like just sort of taking that approach instead.
Yeah, it was great because, you're doing the install, you're doing teaching, but then you carved out some time where they're all doing the same drill, whether it's a position drill or whether it's a special teams drill or if it's an activity with, an exercise with strength and conditioning, or, we did a 3-cone drill and we taught them how to run it properly, and they all were out there executing it, and you get to measure them against each other. So it was a great opportunity to really evaluate the athletes and the competitors and their ability to process and learn. So a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
And now we're seeing everybody together now, kind of mixing with the OTAs. What's it like for you to see kind of a new season officially begin with the integration of the rookies and some of the free agents that you brought in to go with the guys who were existingly here?
Yeah, it's exciting. It's like New Year's Day, really, in football. Like Coach said it before. When you get out there, all right, there's our 90 man. There it is. We're seeing that this week, and seeing, being able to envision what the new D-line is going to look like and the new secondary, just all the new people we've added, and watching them work together. It's great. And seeing the vets that we signed come in and connect with the rookies, it's a lot of fun.
So let's start, I guess, there where, you mentioned vets connecting with the rookies. Look at the running back room, and it's a lot different. You
Sure.
got, Najee's one of the first free agents you signed, and your first round pick is Amari Hampton. Just kind of what you saw last year in your first year and what you wanted to do in remaking that room.
Yeah, I won. JK and Gus were awesome, and obviously I had spent 5 years with them in Baltimore, and they knew the system and the opportunity to add Gus, last year, and JK was great for us, and then Najee's a player that I've competed against his entire career. He was Pittsburgh-Baltimore rivalry, and then we played him last year. So a player that he's always out there, tough player to play against, and bring him into the fold, and then adding Omar in, it's been awesome. And the room, all rooms change, and running backs rooms, wide receivers room. That's the nature of the NFL. So they're going to change, and when you get a chance to add 2 really good players to the room, you do it.
I want to add one more to that because Coach mentioned him, Raheem Sanders. It seems like that's someone that you guys are really excited about, and kind of what is, for people that may not know, undrafted free agent, but I know he was exempt from some of the drills, so it felt like maybe a little, like what's going on there?
Well, we did, Rocket was a guy we definitely did a thorough evaluation on, and we felt like he was a draftable player, and so, where he was on our board, a lot of times you don't get guys in free agency there that that are still on your front board, but definitely a player we targeted in the draft, and obviously we didn't take him, but we made him a big priority after the draft to try to get him locked up and become a Charger. So big, fast player, runs really physical. I was at his game against LSU, and we were leaving in the middle of the fourth quarter and kind of went down. I like to go down to the field level before the game, before I leave the game, just to feel the vibe of the stadium and really to see the player's speed. And he busted out a long run and ran right towards us. I'm like, wow, this guy's trucking. So
leave it on the high note.
Yeah, I'm like, so that's kind of where he made his first impression with me, and then the scouts liked him and coaches, everybody, the guy we all liked, and had a chance to get him, and we're excited about it.
We hear about getting help for Justin, and sometimes you think of that as just outside weapons.
Yeah.
But it seemed like it was really a concerted effort to bolster the backfield with guys who are durable. We've seen Najee carry the load. You saw Amarian carry the load in college. Yeah. How important is that for a quarterback to have two durable guys who could carry the load, and how does that open things up for Justin on the outside?
Yeah, I mean, hey, you develop a strong run game, teams commit players to the box, and then that opens things up in the passing game. So certainly they'll help do that. But then, like you mentioned, the durability, that's one of the key things you want in all players, and certainly the running back position, and two guys that have never missed games, and just carry the ball a lot. And now we're going to put them back there together, and they'll share the load and work well, play off of each other. And then you got Kamani and Haskins and Rocket. So we got and J-Pat. We got a really nice group of running backs to, competitive room. And, but yeah, strong running game opens it up. It really does. It opens up a lot. And I've always said it, and I'll always say it, we help Justin by helping the team. Yeah. And, build a strong defense, build a strong secondary, get the ball back. You're helping Justin. So the more we can get Justin the ball and help Justin keep the ball, the better we're going to be.
Yeah, a little more directly helping him. I don't know if you would agree with this, but it seemed like you really attacked the X-receiver. You get Mike Williams. We know how special he can be out there and the chemistry he has. You draft Trey Harris. And then even I know not size-wise you would think of it, but just speed-wise with Keandre Lambert-Smith. It seemed like, is it fair to say that seemed like a position, looking back at last year and how it played out versus what it looks like it could be this year, is dramatically different?
Yeah, you want to inject youth, you want to inject speed, and you want to inject reliability, and so we did a little bit of that with all of those guys. And there's also versatility. Trey can jump into the slot and play in the slot. He did it at Ole Miss, and KLS can XC. He can move around. So certainly he offers that big, deep threat vertically, with his speed. Great athlete. And then Trey, his versatility, size, jump ball, physicality. And then, again, he's one of those players with that deceptive speed that you just don't realize how fast he is till you're playing against him. And Mike's Mike, man. We all know Mike, so excited to get him back.
Is it fair to put Gadsden in there too?
Gadsden, he's your traditional or your new F type tight end. Yeah. So he's big, long, fast, challenge the seam, great contested ball catcher. And so I think he'll help us out in the middle of the field.
Speaking of Gadsden, one of the things I mentioned to Money last week on the podcast was I noticed, Joe Alt comes from a football family, NFL bloodlines, Gadsden, Mickens. Is that something that you look at in the evaluation process? Just, you have to love football, but do you come from a family that knows what this is? Yeah.
I don't think it's something you necessarily target, but those players have been taught the way by their fathers. And in some cases, they've been in locker rooms. They've been in the facilities. They've seen the pro business, of football, and so they get a little bit of a head start, I'd say, in their football life, and they know what to expect, and it's ingrained in them by their fathers, and so those guys, it helps them get to where they are. I don't think it's a necessity by any stretch, but there's a lot of good parents out there that can instill a lot of good work ethic and values in their kids that aren't players. But the guys that have done it and instilled it in their sons, it's neat to see.
Just kind of sticking with that tight end room and sort of what you found last year, in Tucker Fisk, and how just physical, and I'll even kind of throw Matlock in there a little bit, just the way that you use tight ends and fullbacks, and just sort of what you're looking for and what you added and what Conklin can bring. I just kind of think about the red zone last year and sort of what you brought in with Conklin and with Gadsden, and how that might help all that. But just, am I right in saying it felt like that was maybe an area that you attacked, and it seemed like you really kind of helped throw some resources at it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a guy like Conk, like, he's just such a mature, polished player, tough, great teammate, excellent hands, and just the great thing about him is he's a vet. And when we brought him in to talk and visit and try to get him on board, all he talked about was getting better. And you're talking about 7 years in the league and knowing, hey, I still can learn. There's still things I don't know. And that's such a great thing to hear. And you know that he's excited to be here and continue to grow as a player. And then you bring in Aronde and you got a young talent to mold. And so, yeah, we definitely wanted to, increase or add to the passing game at that position. And, you got Fisk. Disley did a great job, set career marks last year as a receiver. And obviously, very, very solid blocker as well. But then you got Tucker and Scotty that get in there and bang and, free up the run game or create some lanes in the run game. So those two parts were kind of parts we were missing going into free agency. We were able to pick up one in Conk in free agency and then add Aronde in the draft.
Yeah. Joe, we flipped to defense, and it's kind of a new look defensive line too. And I couldn't help but it kind of resonated with me. Tier was talking, I think, at the podium a couple of days ago, and just how much he felt like he belonged here, and how you guys really embraced him. He came in late. How he was recruiting Naquan to come, and it felt like to me that that's how a culture starts. And just, I don't know if you could just speak to carrying over what you did in year one, and some of these guys who really kind of felt that, hey, we won 11 games. I feel like this is a place I can win, and I want to recruit others to be here. Yeah,
well, I mean, all you got to do is come out here for a day, and that should recruit you in and of itself.
Yeah,
but
this is a good chip here.
It's not bad coming to work every day here. But I think that's the culture that really Coach has helped build upon. It was here when we got here. There were great leaders here. There were great competitors here. There were great teammates here. There were guys that cared about the Los Angeles Chargers before we got here. We just added to it. And Coach is like the gasoline you're throwing on the fire, and and him and his staff, and they do a great job. And I think that's what's great about our staff. They're here to make players be their best version of themselves. Yeah. And that's our position coaches. That's Herb, Ben down in the weight room. That's Marco and his training staff. Everybody, Smitty and equipment. This whole organization circles around the team, and that's what we want to do here. And I think we've done that this past year. And I think guys that come into this place for the first time feel that. And that was Tier's case, and he came in and felt it, and we wrapped our arms around him while also challenging him, like, hey, let's go be the best version of you, because you have a chance to be great, and we're going to help you get there. We're going to do everything we can in our power to make these guys the best version of themselves.
When when you don't necessarily have this eye-popping production or these spotlight moments in playoff games that lead to these big free agent deals, like, if you can, walk us and the people watching and listening, like, how you come to an evaluation for guys that maybe don't have a lot of production, that aren't playing a ton of snaps, that are more rotational players, and how you say, that's Deshaun Hand or Naquan Jones. These guys are the guys that'll fit. Like, what is it about what they do that you think, and your coaches, as you talk with them, think are going to be good fit? Like Dante Chad, just think about all those different guys that you signed.
Well, I think as you spend our pro staff does a great job, and you watch players every week, and in the end of the year, there's a nice bank of plays that all NFL players have played, and maybe one plays 400, maybe one plays 800, but you take those 400 plays or those 200 plays and you watch them, they're playing against the same opponents the guy who played 400 plays is. So let's watch him and see what he does. And you just isolate on that player. Does he do things that fit our scheme? Does he play the way we want him to play? And do we see potential to improve him? And we take that approach with every free agent, every player we evaluate on the pro side. And, we look for fits, and in terms of, like I said, scheme fit, but also temperament and personality. So, some guys may be overlooked, but, I think our scouts, our Lou and Denny and Tyler, are all the young guys on the pro side, and then our coaches, phenomenal job in evaluations during free agency. So we find the players that fit what we want.
Obviously, this rookie class is fresh, but just going back to last year and seeing what Joe and Ladd and even Cam and Tarheeb did in big spots last year. In your estimation, your years and years of doing this, how much better can you get from year 1 to year 2? And, we're not even talking about guys like a Boygby, who we heard put on a ton of weight.
Yeah.
Junior,
Good weight.
Good weight, yes.
Yeah.
And Junior, who didn't get a really opportunity because of injuries. That leap from year 1 to year 2, in your estimation, how much better can these guys get?
Yeah, I think that's just historically just been doing it as long as I have. I think that's when the players make their biggest jumps, and so it's really exciting when you think about Joe and Ladd and Cam and Tarheeb, because they were out there producing for us last year. And that, I talked to all the rookies after the season, and I challenged them. Like, this is when you make – this is your move. Like, this is when you make your move. They call it what Saturday is moving day in golf.
Yeah.
The off-season between year 1 and year 2 is the moving phase for players. And that's – they really can make a jump. And I think you'll see that from a lot of the guys. And, they know it. We tell them, I tell them, and Justin's a great example. I said, hey, the guys I know that play your position, their biggest gains were made in the weight room between year 1 and year 2. They were here every day. They were there every day working out. And I saw Justin every single day downstairs, out my window. He's out there working, and 20 pounds of muscle. It's not 20 pounds. It's 20 pounds of muscle. So he's done a great job. I mean, it is 20 pounds, but it's all good weight. So we're excited to see where he is. And Junior's been out there. Kamani's been out there. They thinking about where they were last year to where they are this year. There's a significant difference.
Yeah, just sticking with Justin because, of where you came from, I don't think anyone has done a better job finding those interior D linemen in that 3rd, 4th round than Baltimore. It just seems like every year they pluck one. So kind of just what you learned when you were there and how you evaluate and sort of what you saw with a Boygby. And you told us last year, listen, developmental guy, it's going to take him a bit, sort of like what your vision was and where you think that could be going.
Yeah, when you talk about D linemen, it's a tough job, especially in this scheme. And because you do a lot of grunt work, you're taking on blocks, you're keeping the backers free, you're picking for the ends, it's a little unsung at times. And but what you want, what we look for are players to play with the right technique. I like players when I'm watching film and the tight copy from behind, I can always read their name, I can always see their numbers because they're playing square, they're not getting moved, they play with leverage, good technique. Justin, great hand play, great technique, and then the motor and the toughness. And you get all those things, you can build the rest. They're going to get D linemen are going to get bigger and stronger as they become pros because they're not worried about going to class. They're getting the nutrition's even more dialed in, and colleges have done a great job developing their nutrition side of it. But now they just have they can focus on football all the time, and I think we'll see that with Justin. And you just look for guys that just have the right technique, have the right amount of athleticism, but just play hard and physical and tough, and that's what he did.
Joe, how pleasantly surprised were you with Tarheeb and Cam last year as 5th-round guys? And I guess, yes, it's the player, of course, and the strides they make, the work they put in, but the coaching too, and just kind of that match with Jesse and how he can get these guys up to speed and playing meaningful snaps.
Yeah, very excited for both of them, and I think they both felt it and saw it throughout the course of the year when they had some big games. And but just really they're both great kids. First and foremost, they come in, we draft them. Right away we're getting great kids that we think have ability as players. And just to watch the work ethic they showed, the competitiveness, the resiliency, and Klink, awesome coach, and really he poured all his efforts into them and really pulled the best out of them. And Jesse's scheme is great, and Jesse knows how to use corners to their strengths and get the most out of them. So I'm really proud of both those guys, proud of the whole draft class. Just go out there and compete and play hard and do everything you can for the Chargers.
Kind of one of the tenets of social media and doing what we do is stay out of your comments, but we appreciate the people that watch and YouTube, and so I'll go through the comments, and I think probably, and look, most of them are incredibly positive. People are excited, obviously, what you did last year and turning this team around, winning 11 games. But I'd say probably the most conversation, I think this could speak to what you and Coach have done about tip of the spear, offensive lineman or weapon. That's where the majority of it is.
Yeah.
They kind of, Bradley is center, and what's the future of Zion with the 5th-year option being declined, and signing McConkey. So I guess probably focus on that group a little bit here and sort of what you saw last year through the 11 wins, what you took away from that Houston game, and kind of how you wanted to get that position right going into 2025.
Yeah, I think it really is. It's all positions, but offensive line is such a critical position for sustained success, offensive success. And, Bradley's just such a tough, smart competitor, great teammate. And Zion, we think he's got the versatility to work at center as well. But picking up the option, that's the money side of football. That has nothing to do with Zion. He's a player that we love and want to continue to talk in the future, keeping him around, and then get a chance to add a guy like McKay, big physical presence in there. He's got tackle. He's played tackle. Had a lot of success last year with Philly at guard, and just a guy who can just change the landscape, of every play. Him and Joe next to each other. And you continue to try to improve every position every year, and you can't do it all the time, but I love the guys. I watched them battle last year. The guys that are back, I watched them all battle. Pip, Sawyer, on top of Brad and Zion, and those guys fought their butts off for us, and really respect how they are and how much they care about this team and the effort they put in. And no one's going to have a perfect game. No one's going to have a great game, every single week. But 11 wins with that group, and I think we can get more this year. We keep building.
Do you see it static there with Bradley at center, just like as you kind of visualize it right now? Bradley at center, Zion at left.
Yeah, I'd say it's fluid.
Yeah.
In the end, that's the beauty of offensive line. And then getting players that are versatile. You got to remember when Bradley came into the league, his first year he played left guard. First 2 years played left guard for Baltimore, and then he became a center. So he's got that position versatility. Zion was obviously a tackle in college and then guard, and so he's got flexibility to move around. The thing about offensive linemen is you can move them if they're intelligent, and that's what we have. We have a very intelligent group of offensive linemen who are tough, who are physical. So we have that versatility to find the best fit, and we have plenty of time to do that. It's May, and we'll get the best fit out there in week 1.
Joe, what about Andre James, bringing him in, a guy with a lot of quality starts within the division? Yeah,
absolutely. A player that we watched him, his whole career, but you look at, last year may have had some, quote unquote, lesser grade, but the year before, but that's football. Like some guys, it depends on who the grader is too, but you watch Andre, he's quick, he's smart, athletic, he's got range, and he's enough size to say, hey, same thing. Can you play some guard? Yeah, I can play some guard. So you upgrade the position, you upgrade the depth, you upgrade the starters. You always try to upgrade it. You can upgrade any position by upgrading the last man on the 53-man roster. So that's our goal, is to always upgrade, and we feel like Andres helps us upgrade from last year.
I think the one obviously other question, and as I look off and I see Executive Josh over there, and he knows how gnarly the contract conversations can be with me in the future and what's waiting for him.
Yeah, right. I've heard about that.
Just contract situation with Rashawn is another question that we get a lot of, and kind of I should just let you take it from there, but sort of I just said I think back to the Bosa deal and the Derwin deal, and just kind of what those look like when you have a player of that caliber at a position that's going to be making that kind of money. They tend to take a little bit longer. Just if you could share sort of where that's at and what your vision is of Rashawn and this team moving forward.
Oh, yeah. We want Rashawn here, and I can tell you that. So
it's hard to upgrade the tackle positions here in Los Angeles.
Yeah, listen, it's really hard to upgrade those two players. So, we want Rashawn here, and that's why we're engaged with them. And I came in, Coach came in, we got around Rashawn. It's like, all right, let's, but you want to get to know the players and be around them, and we did that, and knew we wanted to keep Rashawn. So we've had good conversations with his representation, and we're continuing that. And like you said, those players at the top of their positions, they take some time. So, patient, but we're working towards it.
A couple more. The schedule obviously is going to be released this week, and
I just looked at, I think Schefter or somebody tweeted out the amount of miles that the Chargers have to log, like 37,000 miles this year. And obviously that Brazil trip is a big deal.
Yeah.
I know in Baltimore, you guys had 2 trips to London, if I'm not mistaken. Thoughts on international and opening the season in Brazil? I think we probably talked about it a few months ago, but because it's this week and it's scheduled release, it's kind of top of mind for everybody.
Yeah, it's exciting. I mean, opening international games, they're unique and they're fun. It's, as someone who's never been out of the country other than on international games, and then a couple trips to the Caribbean, it's fun to go see somewhere different, and just being, just to say you've been there, put a pin in your map at home, I've been there. So great opportunity. We're on a standalone game. I think it just got announced that it's on YouTube, so that's cool. And they're expecting, obviously a big market, a big audience for that. And, to get a chance to, are we opening the season? No, Philly's got that honor. But we're second up. And so we're looking forward to that. It's a great opportunity to be standalone and go see somewhere different. And it's unique the way they have it set up. You kind of get, I don't want to say a bye, but you're playing Friday, so you're not coming back from an international game. In Baltimore, we had an opportunity to come back and play at home, because it's only a 5-hour flight. And here it's a little different, so you got a couple extra days to rest or recover. But no, we're excited about it.
Has it changed a lot? Like, I just think about back then, being around teams that be like, ugh, international, and now it feels like we want it, man.
Yeah.
Like it feels like it's really shifted the last 3-4 years to teams wanting to go on these, especially standalones.
Yeah, it's unique, and it's a cool opportunity for the players and the teams. And the league has done so many of them. We've kind of worked out the processes and the best methods of travel and when to travel, and everyone's going to do things
Where do
differently.
you come out on that? Like,
where do I come out?
Just like, do you want to be there in and out, or are you someone who thinks it's better to settle in, kind of?
Well, so having done it both ways in the past, we won when we got there earlier. So I'm like, hey, let's get there earlier. But it's also, it can be a challenge too. So you got to get there. I like getting in. What we have to do, we have to travel 5 hours all the time,
right?
Or 4 or 5 hours. So I don't mind getting there a day early and getting acclimated and getting your body clock a little bit more regulated to the local time. So I'm a fan of getting there a little bit early, and I think it works out well that way.
You get the bonding time too. I remember last year, after beating Carolina, you stayed in Carolina the entire week. So sometimes you have to use that schedule to your advantage, an opportunity to maybe kind of bond and spend some more time together. No?
Yeah, we had fun there. That was a good week, and certainly helps when you win, right? If we didn't win, we'd probably be like, oh, what are we doing here for another week? But it's fun to be in there. You almost feel like you're in the old days of training camp when you're going to a different site, and everyone's bunkered in together. So, but it was a good week, and it's good because the focus when you're in the hotel, the focus is the game. When you get there early, the focus is the game, and so I enjoy the way we do it, and we had a lot of success last year. So hopefully we can continue that.
Just going back to the draft class. As you and your staff put together your board and you have it, I'll just think of to your back-to-back picks in the 3rd and 4th round, right? And I had already heard from a bunch of people that they really liked Jamari Caldwell. It seemed like the thing that I heard most often was, I was watching Derek Harmon, and I'm like, who's that guy? And that was sort of how they found him. But you pick them, and you look at a lot of the consensus boards, the media people, and you were maybe a little bit higher where you selected him than those. And then you get Kennard in the 4th, and they're like, unbelievable value. So how often do you feel like, and do you even pay attention to that stuff? Do you feel like your board lines up with maybe some of the other guys that are doing it publicly?
Yeah, I mean, certainly, listen, everyone's boards in the 1st and 2nd rounds, they're not coming from the bottom. The picks aren't coming from the bottom of the board very often, so there's a lot of information that gets out there. Once you start getting to the 3rd, 4th, 5th rounds, then the boards start looking different. And, so you pay attention to it. You do, because there's a little bit of strategy involved. Like, hey, all the rankings have this guy lower. Do we have to pick him that high? And so, as the guy who sets the board and sets our stack, I have to take that into account, and because you always want to get value on every pick. So, but there's times where this is the highest guy on our board. Okay, are we picking him? Everyone has him as a 4th rounder. Okay, good for them. We like him right here and right now. So we think he can develop into a starting nose tackle. So let's take him.
Yeah.
So
Joe, last one for me. We have another month until we kind of break for summer, and probably start a little early with the Hall of Fame game. How important are the next 30 days, and what do you want to accomplish collectively as a team that you feel comfortable breaking for the summer and getting ready to hit training camp?
Yeah, I think, one, if you guys go out there and see our team, that everyone's in really good shape right now. Maintain that, get better. I think that's the goal. Get the offense down, get the defense down, get the special teams down, and let's be well oiled when we break, and really chomping at the bit to get back here. And that's the goal. From the personnel standpoint, it's our opportunity to evaluate the players for the next 30 days and kind of start thinking about what the 53-man roster is going to look like. For the players, it's an opportunity for them to get better every single day, get things dialed in. So when we come back in camp, we're rolling, and so that's the goal.
Last thing, we'll get you out of here, and you've certainly given us a lot of time. Appreciate it. But one of my favorite was schedule release. There's a secondary schedule release because it's our road trips combined with what the college schedule is, where we're going.
Yes.
How quickly do you start? Because last year we had
right
some good
away.
ones. Yeah, right away.
Right away. Like when it comes out tomorrow,
right.
When the schedule release comes out tomorrow, I will I'll go right to ESPN and I'll pull up their college schedule and I will literally look, okay, and then we'll print it out and I'll be highlighting the games. Okay, we're in Miami here. Okay, Miami's away. Let's see if Florida Atlantic's home. Or maybe let's see if I'll hit a game on the way to Miami. Maybe I won't fly with the team, but I'll go hit a game. When we play in Jacksonville. New York. So who's Rutgers playing? So I do that. That's literally one of the first things I do because it's great. It's great because you want to go to great. I mean, last year I went to Auburn, Alabama, which was really cool because I took my son Jack. He was traveling doing the tablets with us, and he's a big Auburn fan, so I was able to take him to that game. Went to Oregon, Michigan.
Yeah, we went to that one.
So it's a lot of fun. LSU, South Carolina.
Right.
So that's a big thing. Because I don't get a chance to go out to colleges as much, if ever. So I want to get on the campuses and see the players. So that's an exciting moment.
Yeah, we went to App State.
Right?
The best one we ever did, though, we played New England, and Josh and I managed to get to Brown Penn, and that was incredible.
So I've been to a game at Brown. Brown's a fun little environment.
It was a wild
back when I did the Northeast. There's little markets right around the stadium. You can go get some fruit. Great. It's a great setting.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we found a bar that had some beers after.
Yeah.
Although
no fruit for you guys?
No fruit.
No fruit.
But I will say our scouting hat, I think, worked because we both walked out of that game and we're like, man, Penn's got a receiver, that dude. And it was Justin Watson.
There you
who
go.
was just lighting it up, man, just torturing Brown.
It's not that hard. It's not that hard.
Look at the good.
I mean,
look at
Josh
the guys doing really well.
Yeah. So
that was. Well, we appreciate it, man.
Joe, you're the best, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Are you? What do you got this summer? You going to be able to take some time?
I don't know. We got my oldest Joey's graduating.
Congratulations.
And from high school, so we'll hit that in early June. Jamie, my third, is playing lacrosse. I don't know when that ends, and then our Jack will have some summer baseball. And then Julian, our youngest, plays baseball too. So he's got his all-star circuits and all that.
That's
so
the best, man.
Yeah, so we'll be running. It'll be
chauffeur duty.
It'll be baseball and lacrosse all
summer long.
Yeah, we'll sneak in some beach time, and maybe I'll have a 5-day window where we can go somewhere.
There you go.
But youth sports gets you. It eats up your summer. That's for sure.
Yes, it does.
So
Joe, you're the man. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it, guys.
Well, Mike, this was a fun episode, an opportunity to break down this schedule and also hear from the GM. A good conversation with Joe.
Yeah, look, the off-the-field stuff is fun, and figuring out where you're going to travel and how the schedule lays out. It's impossible to project because of injuries. You never know what a team is going to become or who's going to be good or who's not or who's going to go worst to first like they do every year. But it is fun to kind of figure out, what's the extra rest? What's the short rest? Do we have a lot of back-to-backs? Are there primetime games? And all of that's fun to lay out. But certainly the conversation with Joe was the highlight of this, and really enjoyed it. We always appreciate him with his time, and just know kind of moving forward, we're hoping one of these a week, or at least close to it, if not every other week. But I think we got a pretty good shot of squeezing some of these in here, these next couple while they're at the facility Coach Roman, Coach Ficken for sure. And then we also want to try to get with some position coaches as well. Coach Devlin from O-line, Coach Elston D-line. You know, we talked to Coach Bowman last year, so let's try to get Coach Clinkin this year, all that sort of stuff. Coach Lal, you know, I mean, he's a big one this year with all the new receivers that are in. So, you know, Coach Day, we haven't talked to Shane Day forever. So, yeah, I mean, like there's a lot of guys we can get on here that just kind of rap with and talk football with, because it's a hell of a staff and we really should take advantage of it.
Yeah, no question. We got another like 5 weeks until these guys break for a little bit, and then early training camp, we're back at it, dude.
Back at it. Looking forward to it. And now we got our schedule, so now I can lay out my off-the-field activities, which gets me awfully excited because, you know, I don't sit in the hotel.
Yeah, we got things to do now. We got plans to make for the 2025 season. Always appreciate you guys listening, watching, reviewing. You guys make this thing go. For Money, I'm Chris. This has been Chargers Week.